Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. I am going to be creating a floral rainbow charm using the floral rainbow wood stamp from Hero Arts. I wanted to stretch what I could do with this stamp other than just stamping and creating a card or a tag. So I decided that I wanted to make a charm. So I have grabbed some shrink plastic, a sheet of that, and this has both a shiny and a matte side, and I am going to be stamping on my matte side. You can also use extra packaging. That packaging actually comes from an embossing folder packaging, so you can use that type of thick plastic as well. I'm also using the Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink because it is permanent, as well as some liquid watercolor to add color to this. Now you can also use permanent markers as well as paint markers, but I wanted to keep this hero themed because it is featured on the Hero Arts blog. So I'm using my liquid watercolors and we are going to see what happens. The first thing I do is stamp my image. So I'm just inking up the wood block, and I do end up stamping this twice just to ensure that if I mess up, I have an extra. Again, my shrink plastic page has a matte and a shiny side, so I am stamping on the matte side to ensure that it holds the ink and the watercolor in place instead of it running all over the place on the shiny side. I also ensure that I leave some space. I'm not stamping right along the edge because I will have to punch a hole to make the charm portion of this charm. So I want to make sure that I have enough space around the image where I can create the little circle and it not be too close to the edge. So now that my images are stamped, I am going to grab my watercolors and get started. So I will not make you sit through my entire painting process for this, but I do have a few tips for you when you are doing this. First thing, if you want your colors to remain light after you shrink them, then you will need more water on your watercolors. If you want it to be opaque and darker, more rich, you will use the liquid watercolor just as it dropped out of the dropper, or even when it's almost dried. When it's almost dry, you actually get the most opaque application. But you do need to keep in mind that this image is going to shrink. So your colors will look different than how you painted them. They might be darker, they may be more vibrant. It's just a matter of playing around with it to get the look that you want to achieve. Again, I am using watercolors here, these liquid watercolors, and things can get messy and runny. So you don't want too much water on your image, especially if you're adding other colors. You will need to paint and then wait for it to dry. Do not use your heat gun to dry these layers in between or these colors in between because it will shrink your paper. Again, I am using the liquid watercolors from Hero Arts, and those colors are mostly from the bright. So I'm using the Brights Pink, the Brights Orange, the Bright Sunshine, Bright Chartreuse. I'm using Indigo. I'm also using Purple, and I think that is it. I do mix the colors here and there to achieve the color that I am looking for, but yeah, I use those just as they are for the most part. All right. So once I am satisfied with how things are looking, I do go in and start trimming around the edges. I do leave a bit of a thinner border just to ensure that I don't snip my image or that it cracks when it shrinks. I also go in with my hole punch and punch a hole directly above the center of the rainbow, and then I cut around that as well. I also suggest working on a white or opaque surface that will contrast whatever you are painting on the shrink paper, just to ensure that you don't have any empty spots or clear spots, because when it shrinks, that's how it will be. Now for the fun part, I have put a wood panel on my desk, and I also used a wooden chopstick to hold the rainbow in place, and I just apply heat, and once it is shrunk, I sit it under my acrylic stamping block to make sure that it flattens out completely and let it cool. And this is what it is looking like. Again, one side is shiny and the other is matte. You can seal this if you choose by using some resin or even Mod Podge on the back, but I chose not to. All that's left to do is add it onto a jump ring and place it onto your keychain or whatever you would like to add this charm onto. I chose to do a chunky keychain. But that is all that I have today, guys. I hope this video inspires you to stretch your stash and use what you have. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.